Hello there, and welcome to your next math lesson. Go ahead and open up your math notebook, turn to the next available page, and at the top, write the title of today's lesson, which is Round Decimals. Okay, this is the first lesson of Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is all about adding. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Chapter 5 is all about adding and subtracting decimals. So today we're starting with rounding decimals as a preparation for learning how to add and subtract decimals. Excuse me. Now, remember that when we round, we're finding an approximate value. The word approximate means around the same as. And so when we're rounding, we're finding something that's around the same as the exact answer, but not the exact answer. And remember that a decimal number is any number that has digits to the right of the decimal point. So an example would be like 3 and 23 hundredths. Now, so far we've learned 3 decimal place positions. We've learned that directly to the right of the decimal point is the tenths place, then the hundredths place, and after that, the thousandths place. This number has no thousandths place, so we don't put a digit there. Now, we could put a 0 there, changing it to 3 and 230 thousandths, because that 0 is in the thousandths place, but that doesn't change the value of the number. Adding zeros to the right of a decimal number doesn't change their value, so we can just take that 0 off, and that becomes important later on in today's lesson. Now, today's lesson is about rounding decimals, and here's the good news. You round decimals the exact same way you round whole numbers, with only one difference. Let's say we wanted to round this number to the tenths place. Here's the steps on how we do that. First of all, we look at the tenths place, and you can even underline. I'll double underline it because it's already underlined. You underline the place value position that you're rounding to. Then that number looks to the neighbor to its right, and it says, "Can I have a raise?" Now, if the number to his right is 5 or more, he'll say yes, because he's high enough in management to where he can say yes. But if he's 4 or less, he says no, because he's not high enough in management to give raises. Okay, so again, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 always give a raise. 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 never give a raise. So this 2 asks the 3 for a raise. And what does the 3 say? Sorry, not high enough of management, can't give raises, so he says no. That means the 2 stays the same, and the number to the right then becomes a 0. Whether they say yes or no, they become a 0. And then everything to the left of the number we rounded to stays the same. Now, so far it's the same, but here's the difference. When you're rounding decimals, when there's zeros to the right of the decimal point, we don't leave them there. So this 0 actually just gets dropped off, and it rounds to 3 and 2 tenths. There's no reason to make the answer 3 and 20 hundredths, because 3 and 20 hundredths means the same thing as 3 and 2 tenths. It's just like a pizza that's cut into 10 times more slices. So the answer is 3 and 2 tenths. Let's do some more examples together. And again, make sure you're writing everything Mr. Dauber's writing, okay? Let's say we had 5 and 476 thousandths. And let's say we were supposed to round this to the hundredths place. So what do? We look at the hundredths place. We know that the place value position to the right of the decimal point is the tenths. Then comes the hundredths, then comes the thousandths. So the 7 is in the hundredths place. We underline that. Then the 7 asks the number to his right for a raise. Hey, 6, can I have a raise? And 6 says, sure, I'm high enough in management to give out a raise because I'm 5 or more. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 always say yes. 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 always say no. So the 6 says yes, which means the 7 becomes an 8. Everything to the left stays exactly the same. And if we were rounding whole numbers, this 6 would become a 0. But since we're rounding decimal points, he just goes away. So we could put a 0 there, and that makes the answer 5 and 480 thousandths. But 5 and 480 thousandths is exactly the same as 5 and 48 hundredths. So we don't leave the 0 there. Zeros all the way to the right of a decimal number don't change the value of a number, so we don't add them in. Let's do another example together. Let's say we had 983 and 625 thousandths. And let's say we wanted to round it to the ones place this time. That means now we're looking at the 3 because the ones place is the place value position that's directly to the left of the decimal point. Okay, now the 3 is going to ask his neighbor to the right for a raise. He's going to ask the tenths place for a raise. And what does the tenths place say? Well, it's a 6 again, just like last time. Can 6s give raises? The answer is yes. So the 6 says yes. The 3 becomes a 4. Everything to the left stays the same. And everything to the right becomes a 0, so we don't actually even need the decimal point anymore. We could write this 984 and 0 thousandths, but that's the same thing as saying 984 and nothing. So we don't even need it there. We just write 984. Now, anytime you round to the ones place, you end up getting rid of the decimal portion of the number. Okay, let's say we had 4 and 35 hundredths, and let's round it to the tenths place. Which digit is in the tenths place? Well, we know the ones place is directly to the left of the decimal point. Then we have the decimal point. Then to the right of the decimal point is the tenths place. That's the 3. Then to the right of that is the hundredths place. That's the 5. So the 3 is in the tenths place. We're rounding to the tenths place, so we look at the 3. Then the 3 turns to his neighbor to the right, the 5, and he says, hey, 5, I've been working pretty hard. Can I have a raise? If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, they always say yes. If they're 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, they always say no. So 5 says yes. He's high enough in management to give raises. So 5 says yes. The 3 becomes a 4. Everything to the left stays the same. And if we were rounding whole numbers, the 5 would become a 0. But since we're rounding decimals, and since that 0 is all the way to the right of a decimal number, there's no need for us to include it. So we just write 4 and 4 tenths. Let's do another example together. Let's say we had 11, let's say we had 110 and 79 thousandths. That's what this is, 110 and 79 thousandths, because that 9 is in the thousandths place. It's 3 digits over from the decimal point, and we have tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Okay? Now, we're supposed to round this number to the hundredths place. So the 7 is in the hundredths place. He asks his neighbor for a raise, his neighbor to the right. Does 9 say yes or no? 9 says yes because he's 5 or more. So that means the 7 becomes an 8. Everything to the left stays exactly the same. And then again, if we were rounding whole numbers, the 9 would become a 0. But do we leave that 0 there? No, we don't. We don't add the 0. It just becomes 110 and 8 hundredths. Let's do another one. Let's say we had 1 and 8 tenths. And let's round it to the ones place. Okay, so we underline the ones place because we're rounding to the ones place. The ones place is always directly to the left of the decimal point. He asks his neighbor to the right for a raise. 8 is 5 or more. He's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. He's an 8. So he says yes. So the 1 becomes a 2. There's nothing to the left, so nothing stays the same. And then everything to the right, if this was a whole number, would become 0. But since it's a decimal number, we don't need that there anymore. 2 and 0/10 means the same thing as 2 and nothing. So we just get rid of it, and the answer is 2. Okay, I've done quite a few examples with you. Now I'm going to have you do your independent practice. And here's what I'd like you to do for your independent practice. I want you to do 9 and 45 thousandths, and I want you to round it to the 10th place. Okay, round this number to the 10th place. And then there's 19 and 25 hundredths. I want you to round it to the ones place. I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you 8 and 17 hundredths, and I want you to round it to the 10th place. Okay? Round 9 and 45 thousandths to the 10th place. Round 19 and 25 hundredths to the ones place. And round 8 and 17 hundredths to the 10th place. Go ahead and do that now, and I will catch you next time. Signing off.